Elara was a man who had lost everything. His life was once full of sound. There was the laughter of his wife and the happy shouts of his children. His small farm was alive with the noise of animals and the rustle of crops in the wind. But a great fire came, swift and cruel. It took his home, his family, and his future. The fire left nothing behind but silence and ash. Elara's heart became a quiet, empty place, much like the vast desert that stretched out beyond the ruins of his former life. He no longer spoke. The joy had been burned out of him, leaving only a hollow echo of what he once was. He walked away from the black, scorched earth of his past. He carried with him only a small bag of seeds and a water skin. He walked until his feet were sore and his spirit was weary. He found himself at the edge of a great, barren desert. The sun was a harsh master here. The land was cracked and thirsty. Nothing grew. There were no birds, no insects, only the endless sigh of the wind blowing across the sand. This place of desolation felt like a mirror to his own soul. It was a land without hope, a place where life had surrendered long ago. In this great emptiness, Elara felt a strange sense of peace. The silence of the desert matched the silence in his heart. No one was there to offer words of pity. No one was there to remind him of what he had lost. It was just him and the endless expanse of sand and sky. He sat on a rock and watched the sunset, painting the horizon in colors of orange and purple. For the first time since the fire, he did not feel the sharp sting of his grief. He simply felt empty, a vessel waiting to be filled, though he did not know with what. That night, under a blanket of brilliant stars, he made a silent promise. He did not know if it was a promise to himself, to the memory of his family, or to the earth itself. He opened his bag and looked at the small, hard seeds inside. They were simple seeds from a hardy tree, the kind that could survive with very little. He knew it was a foolish idea. He knew that one man could not change a desert, but he had nothing left to lose. And the simple act of doing something, anything, felt better than the crushing weight of doing nothing at all. The next morning, as the sun began its slow climb into the sky, Elara began his work. He chose a spot in the hard, dry ground. With his bare hands, he dug a small hole. His fingers scraped against the rough soil, but he did not mind the pain. He took one single seed from his bag. He held it in his palm for a moment, a tiny promise of life in a world of death. He placed it gently into the hole and covered it with earth. Then he poured a small amount of precious water over the spot. It was a quiet, simple act. It was a prayer without words. People from the nearest village, many miles away, sometimes saw him. They saw a lonely figure walking in the heat, bent over the ground. They saw him digging and planting. They shook their heads. "The man is mad," they would say to each other. "He's been broken by his sadness. He's trying to plant a forest in the sand." They laughed at his foolishness. Children would point and whisper stories about the crazy man who talked to the ground. Elara heard their words, but he did not listen. Their laughter was just another sound in the wind, and it could not touch the deep silence within him. Every day was the same. He would wake with the sun. He would find a new spot. He would dig a hole. He would plant a seed. He would give it a little water. He did this work with a patient, steady rhythm. The sun beat down on his back. The wind whipped sand into his eyes. Some days his body ached with weariness. Some days his heart ached with a loneliness so profound it felt like a physical weight. But he never stopped. The daily ritual became his reason for living. It was his anchor in a sea of sorrow. Each seed was a small act of defiance against the emptiness. Years passed like grains of sand slipping through his fingers. His hair turned white, and his back became more stooped. His hands were calloused, and his skin was weathered like old leather. He did not count the days or the years. He only counted the seeds, one seed a day, every day. He walked farther and farther into the desert, leaving a long, invisible trail of buried hope behind him. He did not look for results. He did not expect a miracle. His work was not about the destination. It was about the journey, about the simple, faithful act of planting. This story of dedication is not entirely alone in the world. Far away, in another land, a real man named Jadav Payeng did something very similar. He saw a barren sandbar in his home of Majuli, India, and worried that it would be washed away by the river. He began planting trees there all by himself. Just like Elara, people thought he was strange. They did not understand why one man would take on such an impossible task, but Jadav kept planting. He planted for 30 years. He carried water from the river. He nurtured the young saplings. His single-minded effort was a testament to the power of one person's vision. Elara in his own desert knew nothing of Jadav Payeng, but they shared the same spirit. They were brothers in purpose, separated by distance but connected by their love for the earth. Elara's first seeds did not all survive. The desert was a harsh place. Many were scorched by the sun or died of thirst. But some, the strongest ones, held on. After a few years, tiny green shoots began to push their way through the cracked ground. They were small and fragile, almost invisible in the vastness of the desert. But to Elara, they were everything. They were proof that life could find a way, even in the most hopeless of places. He tended to these young trees with the care of a father. He gave them a little extra water. He protected them from the harshest winds with small walls of stone. He would sit among them in the evenings, his silent companions in the vast wilderness. The sight of their green leaves against the brown earth was a balm to his soul. The wind, which once only carried the sound of emptiness, now whispered through their tiny branches. It was a new sound. It was the sound of life returning. It was a soft melody that began to fill the silence in his heart. As the years turned into a decade, and then two, the small saplings grew into young trees. They were thin and scattered at first, like lonely soldiers on a battlefield. But they were alive. They stood against the sun and offered small patches of shade. Their roots held the soil together, preventing it from blowing away in the wind. The desert was still a desert, but it was no longer completely barren. There were pockets of green, small islands of life in a sea of sand. People who passed by no longer laughed. They looked on in quiet wonder. The madman's folly was slowly, impossibly beginning to look like a miracle. After 40 years of patient work, the landscape had changed beyond recognition. The scattered trees had become a forest. What was once a sun-scorched desert was now a canopy of green. The trees stood tall and strong, their branches intertwined. The ground beneath them was soft with fallen leaves. The air was cool and smelled of earth and life. The silence was gone, replaced by a symphony of sounds. Birds which had not been seen in this land for generations now nested in the branches. Their songs filled the morning air. Insects buzzed and small animals rustled in the undergrowth. Life had returned. The forest changed everything. The trees drew moisture from the air, and the rains began to fall more regularly. The once dry riverbeds near the old desert began to flow with water again. Families, hearing stories of the green land, started to move back to the area. They built new homes near the edge of the forest that Elara had planted. They found that the soil was now rich and fertile. They planted crops and their children played in the cool shade of the trees. They did not see a crazy old man. They saw a hero, a quiet creator who had given them a future. Jadav Payeng's forest in India, now called Molai Forest, is over 1,300 acres. It is home to tigers, rhinos and elephants. It is a real living example of what one person's patience can achieve. Like Elara's fictional forest, Jadav's real one stands as a powerful symbol of hope. Both stories teach us the same profound lesson, that small, consistent actions performed with love and patience over a long time can lead to monumental change. They show that one person truly can make the world a better, greener place for generations to come. Elara lived out his final years in a small hut at the heart of his forest. He was no longer the man broken by grief. He was a man filled with a deep, quiet joy. He had not planted the trees for fame or for thanks. He had planted them to heal his own heart. But in healing himself, he had healed the land and given a gift to countless others he would never meet. His story, like the seeds he planted, is a simple one. It tells us that even in our darkest moments, we can choose to plant a seed of hope. And with enough patience and kindness, That single seed can grow into a forest that changes the world.